By the
Yeah.
way, Rizel joined us. What's up? She's on stage. Hey, hey.
Hey,
Hey,
Rizzo.
what's up, y'all?
Hey. Yeah, thanks for being here. Let's get to the topic of the hour, so to speak, which is the highlight is Hacktoberfest. And we have Rizel, who's a developer advocate at GitHub, to walk us through, kind of the ins and outs and get people oriented to Hacktoberfest. So before we jump into that, Rizel, why don't you just tell people a little bit about yourself? I've kind of introduced you as, the GitHub developer advocate. The second thing I'll say is you were a speaker at the Composability Summit back in at the end of July. You gave what I thought was one of the best styled slides. They had so much personality. I thought they were
For
fantastic.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah. But let me give you just a few minutes, tell people about yourself, and then let's jump into Hacktoberfest. And thank you for being here.
Of course.
Can I
Thanks.
cut in really, really quick just to
Yeah.
say, y'all, Rizel's just fucking phenomenal, and everybody should be really, really, really excited that she's here because we always have really cool stuff during JavaScript Jam, and having Rizel here is like double good.
Thanks,
Absolutely.
y'all. Now I'm super gassed up, but I also have to like live up to everything y'all just said. Yeah, thank you. I really enjoyed speaking at Composability Summit, and I always try to make my slides nice because I'm like, if the talk is bad, at least people will get like distracted by the slides and be like, I really like those. Um, but yeah, my name is Rizel, y'all, and I'm a developer advocate. I'm a junior developer advocate at GitHub. Been here for a year. Before that, I was a software engineer and for about like 3 years. And I like doing like nonprofit things on the side too, of like introducing like women of color, non-binary people of color to code. And I'm pumped about Hacktoberfest. I participated in it last year, but that's kind of when I just joined GitHub, so I'm really excited that I'm getting to be at like the beginning parts of it, what people call like Preptember. And I'm excited to tell y'all a little bit more.
Great. So let's start with, for people who have no context whatsoever, just tell them what Hacktoberfest is. It's been going on, I think, for 8 or 9 years. Just tell them just the brief history and what it is, and then we can keep going.
Yeah, Hacktoberfest is a month-long event in October. Um, that DigitalOcean and GitHub and DigitalOcean are like in partnership, and they kind of use this time to encourage people to contribute to open source more. So I think a lot of the focus has always been on like first-time contributors, but that doesn't mean we're only limiting it to that. We want to encourage veteran contributors and first-time contributors to get involved in Hacktoberfest. And the way that it works is open source maintainers will find a bunch of like good first issues, or if people don't know what good first issues are, that's essentially issues that you can be able to contribute to even if you've had not a lot of context about the project. And they'll label it Hacktoberfest in the issue, and that allows you to enter the competition. So you do have to register on the hacktoberfest.com website, but it allows you to enter the competition and win a couple of things. I don't remember what the awards are this year, but last year they like gave like free swag, and if you got 4 or more Hacktoberfest accepted pull requests, or you had the option to plant a tree in your name if you were like, I have enough swag, I don't need all that, like let me give back in a different way. But it's essentially just a way for folks to help out maintainers to get their project to the end, and then also for folks to get a chance to participate in and discover more open source communities. And this year, which is going to be my last point, this year the push is going to be more on non-code contribution. So I know when people think open source, they're always thinking of like, this has to be a coding contribution. But if you're good at like project management or design or documentation, or you want to gain those skills, this is also a spot for you to practice. That's all.
Yeah, that last part I saw, and that's a really good point. I think too often, whether it's building websites or in an open source project, everyone thinks it's all about the code. and it's actually as much about, when you're building a site, it's as much about the content, or when you're building an open source project, it's about the community, or it's about, making sure it's easy for people to join that community. Those non-code contributions, I think, tend to be unfortunately undervalued, and they're actually extremely leveraged in the success of a project. It's almost less sometimes about the code than making sure people are aware of it. Just like the best product in the market doesn't always win, it's actually the one that most people know about. So it's really a great change to see that added. Regarding the prizes, this year I looked it up. It's 40,000 participants. So 40,000 people will get one of two prizes: a tree plant in their name, as you mentioned, or a Hacktoberfest 2022 shirt. Um, do you know, in past years, like, did they get enough participation that they actually ran out of shirts, or did they have any left over, or maybe you're not aware?
That's a good question. I haven't heard of them saying we ran out. Like,
Okay.
I'm sure they, if they're at a point where they need more, I feel like they just order more.
Yeah, so
We live in an age of abundance where more shirts can always be made.
Yeah.
at least for t-shirts.
Yeah.
Well, t-shirts and currencies, evidently. But it's the quantitative easing of t-shirts. So yeah, and then the other thing that people should know is, for pull and merge requests is another thing you mentioned, and it has to be a GitHub repository that has the Hacktoberfest label on it.
Yeah.
And I believe GitLab is also qualifies
Yes,
to
they are
accept either.
participating too. Yeah,
Yeah.
GitLab or GitHub. Yeah.
Okay. So I guess if you're somebody who has never participated in Hacktoberfest before, what is like the best way to find a repo and get started, or find an issue? Maybe walk people through, like, on GitHub, I'm less familiar with GitLab, but at least on GitHub, you can search for that label. You can search for first issue. Do you want to just walk people through like how they would get started on that? And then they also need to first register on the Hacktoberfest site as well. So maybe you can talk just briefly through that and what people need to do.
Yeah. So definitely I would start with registering on the Hacktoberfest website. It's super easy. I signed up last night. It took me like 5 minutes, or probably even less. Basically, you just press register and it's going to ask you if you want to authorize it with GitHub or GitLab, whichever platform you're used to. Go ahead and do that. And then it just asks for like your name and your like email address or something. Actually it asks like, how do you want to participate? Like, do you want to participate as a contributor, maintainer, event organizer? Are you new to Hacktoberfest, or have you done this before? And are you more interested in code or non-code contributions? It's super, super quick to sign up. But I would do that just to make sure that you get your Hacktoberfest pull request. Now, if you were trying to find a project, there's a couple of ways to do that. But if you go to github.com/topics/Hacktoberfest, you will be able to see all the open source projects that have the label Hacktoberfest. And this indicates that like they're participating in Hacktoberfest for this year. And like if I were y'all, I would start looking now in September. Like October is coming pretty quickly to an end. I mean, it's starting pretty quickly, and September is coming to an end pretty quickly, because I know that it's pretty Hacktoberfest is popular. Like you said, there's like 40,000 people participating, and like I want people to be able to get a chance to grab a ticket. So yeah, go to github.com/topic/Hacktoberfest, and you'll be able to scroll through different projects that you're interested in. Another option is like there's a couple options. Another one is like if you use a project a lot and you're aware that it's open source, or you can check and see if it's open source and has a repository on GitHub or GitLab, that's a good opportunity for you to check in and see if you can contribute to that project. Because if you've been using it, why not give back? But definitely make sure it has the Hacktoberfest label. And another option, if you want to contribute to open source is there's a couple of like good first issue aggregators, so a couple of websites that finds all the good first issues out there that are good for people to get started. So you can go to, I think it's like firsttimersonly.com. That's like a really really good one. You could also go to there's a Twitter account actually called Good First Issues, and what it does is anytime someone labels an issue a good first issue, it'll get tweeted out. But if you want to, again, if you want to make sure that you get accepted to open source, then I mean Hacktoberfest, then go ahead and make sure that it has that like Hacktoberfest label. Trying to think of other options, but I will say those are the three things. Like go through github.com/topics/Hacktoberfest, or look on firsttimersonly.com, or check out that Twitter account that's called Good First Issues, and you'll be able to find like a bunch of good first issues, and just make sure you can find that Hacktoberfest label. Yeah. But stop me so I stop rambling.
No. So, and I just want to underscore, like a
Yeah.
good first issue is one that the maintainer has said, it's the welcome mat laid out for you as a beginner to say, here's the best way to start getting, the best thing we need solved that isn't going to be super hard for you to get started and would be a great contribution. That's a great, call out for how people should get started looking for repositories with Hacktoberfest and good first issues.
Yeah.
I know there's a Discord you can join for Hacktoberfest.
There
Yeah,
is.
yeah. Do you want to
Yes.
talk a little bit about that and anything else, people should be doing in Preptember besides looking for issues and joining the Discord?
Yeah. Okay. So definitely, I should grab the link for y'all so you can pin it to the Twitter space. But definitely join the Hacktoberfest Discord, because in there they have people sharing their projects. They have announcements and news that pop up, because right now they're doing a couple of events. Like different organizations are doing events in preparation for or in celebration of Hacktoberfest, and those are really good events for you to be able to gain more context about open source. Um, in addition to that, when you brought up discords, I think another great call out is like if you join a project or you see an open source community on GitHub or GitHub Lab that you're interested in contributing to, but you're not really sure how. One thing that really lowered the barrier for me is just joining their community Discord or Slack or whatever they use to chat, because that helped me to, I think, get familiar with the people in the community and feel like I belonged, and then feel okay with asking questions. Because I think something that people get stuck on sometimes is they pick up an issue and then they don't know how to do it, but they're too afraid to ask for help and ask questions. Like I was definitely that way. So I'm like, definitely start now in September to get familiar with the people in the community. Even maybe clone the project and get familiar with the project too, because for you to be able to contribute, you kind of have to understand how some parts of it work. um, like click around in the buttons and stuff like that and be like, okay, this is how this function is firing. This is what's happening within there, so you can gain some context and then attend those events. So the three things I would say is attend the events that they have, sign up for the discords, and go ahead and try to gain context about certain projects.
Great. That's actually a good seg for a question that I was going to ask later, which was just tell us, what your first experience was. I think you said last year was the first time you participated in Hacktoberfest. What was the experience like for you from, maybe any concerns you had at the beginning, as well as issues you ran into that were unexpected obstacles, and then how it felt at the end to actually, having done Hacktoberfest and maybe a sense of accomplishment?
Yeah, oh my god, I'm happy to talk about that. I literally have a talk about this. But basically, I the first time I contributed was in August 2021. And before that, everyone always told me like you should contribute, and I was like, I don't know, like it's mad stressful. Like I would legit sit down at my computer and try to contribute, and then I'll get stressed out because I'm like, there's so many options, and the code bases look really really big, and I also was really afraid of people like laughing at my my pull request. I don't know why. Like I just thought like I would open a pull request and then people would be like, "What is that?" And so I was like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna skip it."
That is
I already
super relatable. Like I've definitely had that
Yeah.
same feeling.
Yeah, it feels like, oh my gosh, this is going to be written in cuneiform, and it's going to be on a billboard, and yeah, totally. I can empathize. Sorry, keep going.
Yeah, no, I'm glad that y'all also felt that way because I'm like, I'm probably writing code with experts, and they're gonna be like, "Girl, that is not how you do it." So I just like ignored it because I'm like, yo, I already get paid to code. I'm not gonna sit here and do this for free. But the reason why I decided to was when I got my job, when I got my offer at GitHub. B Dougie messaged me and he was like, "You should probably try contributing to open source if you're gonna work here." And I was like, all right, he has a good point. Um, but what I decided to change is some of those things that I mentioned earlier is like introducing myself in the Discord that helped me get like a human sense or feel for the people. I was like, okay, these are not like gods or anything. They're normal, they're nice, they're happy to have me within their community, and they all were like, well, we'll help you if you need it. And also I took some more time to like go through the code base and figure out what the project was doing, because before I would just pick up any issue that I saw and I would be like, oh, maybe this, and then I would be like, oh my god, I don't understand what it's saying, or I don't understand what the project even does. So just taking that step back and moving slower and introducing myself to people changed everything, and now I feel good. Like I contribute to projects a lot now.
Yeah, it was just getting over maybe the fear factor you mentioned at the beginning. I like to think of that label of Hacktoberfest on a repo or an issue as like the welcome mat. Like, don't worry, we know you're, I don't know, riding a bike and you're gonna fall off a few times. Like, that's expected. Feel free. Like, it's trying to create that safe space. Do you remember which repositories and issues you picked for Hacktoberfest?
For Hacktoberfest?
Yeah.
Oh shoot, I don't know if I remember. I
Okay.
remember the first project I did, and that was open sourced. I know
Okay.
that, but I don't remember.
Oh, that's B Dougie's project. So
Yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
That
That was
made
one
it
of the
easier.
first I didn't necessarily contribute to, but that was the first Discord server I ever joined. It was one of the first like Twitch channels that I started watching. So like there's a long lineage of people B Dougie has gotten into this world.
Yeah,
It
really.
was my first PR.
Oh my god, you too?
That's
Yeah,
what's up.
on open source.
Because I told her to
He's
join open source.